Whether I'm with my 3 little kids at home or in my classroom full of high school math students at work, I'm constantly solving problems and trying to find balance in all of life's equations. My name is Rosa, and I am a miraculous mama.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Miraculous Mamas. I'm your host, Elizabeth Pressa, and I hope that you enjoy our new intro. I'm going to be bringing on different women from our community to tell us why they are a miraculous mama. So if you want to be a part of the intro, definitely reach out to me because I would love to meet you and hear a little bit about you and give you the opportunity to introduce yourself on the podcast. I'm so excited about our guest, Lisa Cook. She is the owner of Kids Swim and a water safety expert. Just in time. It's starting to get hot. Well, in Chicago, it's just now warming up. I'm sure in LA, it's a lot warmer. But this is something that this is something that is probably not talked about enough, especially with new parents. So I'm so excited that you're here to answer questions and share your expertise with us.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah.
Really excited.
So how did you get into being a water safety expert?
So, I've been teaching and lifeguard. I've been involved in aquatics community for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And so, I've seen a whole myriad of different types of aquatic experiences, like public pools, YMCAs, beaches, community events. I've done a lot of volunteer stuff and then a lot of private lessons. And so I just have come to really, with enough experience and time, you really start to learn about water safety and about kind of what creates a water safe child and person and things you just need to know, in that world, especially when you're lifeguarding too. That was very helpful as a young adult. And then 18 years ago, I started my swim school, my business. And just coincidentally, that same summer, there were 2 very high profile drownings that occurred in Los Angeles. Both of them in affluent communities, and both took place at pool parties in LA. And interestingly enough, I knew people who were either at the party or had been affiliated with someone at the parties. So I was able to get information about what occurred. And once I heard about it, I thought, well, both of these could have been prevented so easily, first of all. And second of all, it's so clear that there's a need for people to have access to more information about how to be safe, how to create safe children, how to create a safe environment if you're having a pool party, things you need to know about your own child's development and how they will eventually be safe and so on and so forth. So I started doing community service, water safety talks. And I do them at schools. I do them for parenting groups. I do them for children, caregivers. And I've been doing that for as long as I've had my business. And I write articles about it. And, I'm pretty vocal about getting that message across. And I think even now with, recent drownings, and there's attention on it for sure. Yeah. But there's still a misunderstanding about what it actually means. And people talk a lot about drowning prevention, but interestingly enough, that's not the same thing as water safety. They're 2 different topics. And I think that's something that has to be addressed more than it is. Mm-hmm. So that's my long spiel about how I came to be.
Yeah. Well, I read the statistic, and it says the leading cause of death in children ages 1 to 4, and the second leading cause in ages 1 to 14 is drowning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that 69%.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please go. Finish.
I was just going to say, and 69% of those were children who were not expected to be swimming, but yet they were found.
Right. And so there's a couple of things there. One is that in that it does go up to age 14, it's important to remember that there are a lot of different ways that children can be put in a situation where there's a potential drowning risk. And it's not just for the youngest children either. Middle school age and young teenagers are oftentimes left more to their own devices and are in situations where they do things or attempt things that can cause a drowning risk. And maybe they're not as strong a swimmer as they think they are, or as their family thinks they are. So even though we really focus on the youngest of the young, and as well we should, you can't discount the fact that, you know, we say no person is ever 100% water safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a real water safety advocate will tell you. And so you have to put up that disclaimer anytime you're talking about even a child being of an age where they're water safe. You still have to say, you know what, you still shouldn't be swimming alone. Mm-hmm. There should always be somebody there that's watching, or a buddy or a lifeguard or whatever. But yeah, it's, you know, it's still a very big issue. And I think a lot of it is just misunderstanding. And you're right. A lot of it happens when there's not a swimming activity. Mm-hmm. It's just there. It happens to be a pool in the vicinity, and it most likely isn't gated or covered.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, the statistic is alarming because I know someone that it happened to when I was in high school. Their 3-year-old drowned. And a lot of people I know someone, or there's like a few degrees of separation, you know, so it is something that definitely needs to be talked more about. And that's why I'm super excited. I asked the Facebook community what questions they had, and they just, there were so many. I'm so excited though, because I mean, these moms want to know, you know, what to do for their children. All right, I am going to talk to you about my skin really quick. I've had a lot of people ask me about the skin products that I use, and I know so many people spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars on skincare, but the biggest thing to help your skin is a clean diet. And I have noticed such a difference in my skin since starting to use Sakara. Sakara is absolutely amazing. They have organic, ready-to-eat meals with nutritious and delicious plant-based ingredients that help you look and feel like your best self. Their programs include breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's delivered to your door, and you get supplements along with it, teas, and support from a certified health coach to help you stay on track. I've been training for the half marathon, and it was just really important for me to fuel my body with nutrient-dense foods. And honestly, I have felt a huge difference. Like I said, my skin has a little bit more of a glow to it. I really, really struggled in my 20s with my skin. And I feel like the last couple months, it's just started to feel plump again. And I have been feeling so good doing my marathon. I think it's really important to pay attention to what we're fueling our bodies, and Sakara just makes it so easy. And the ladies who founded it, they just have such a big mission. They feel like it's so important to give you nutrient-dense superfoods, and they take the calorie counting out of it. All their foods help enhance your energy, improve digestion. It supports healthy weight loss, and the menu changes weekly, so you never get bored. I have absolutely loved doing Sakara, and I know that you will too. You will definitely see a difference in having brain fog, your skin, just your gut health, all of it. And right now, Sakara is offering our listeners $60 off their first order when they go to sakara.com/mama. That's Sakara, SAKARA.com/mama to get $60 off your first order. Sakara.com/mama. Join me in feeling healthy and amazing today. So one of the questions was, how old do kids need to be before they can actually learn to swim versus taking classes focused on getting them comfortable in the water?
So that's a great question. And I think that answering this really helps to break down the developmental process in how children learn to swim and in terms of development toward water safety. So I really encourage parents to start their children at infancy. And while this isn't with a goal towards creating a water safe infant, because there is no such thing, what you're doing is you are exposing them to the environment early. They're starting to build connections, positive associations, a foundation, and you can actually accomplish a lot of skill development at that age that makes the process much more streamlined and smoother as they get older. So, for example, if you start a baby at 6 or 7 months old, which, by the way, is great for them on many, many levels. So it's not just about water safety. It's also for a whole host of other developmental reasons. But if you start them around that age, you can acclimate them to getting their face in the water, gliding, blowing bubbles, eventually, floating, kicking, swimming, climbing out of a pool, all of these things starting at that age. And you kind of build foundationally on water safety skills, language, and actual swimming techniques. So what happens is once you have a child that's about 2.5, they can actually be swimming and swimming enough that you can then take that child and really teach them foundational skills and get them to a place where they are swimming, where they understand safety language, and then you move them towards becoming water safe. So every stage is a process that build on from the beginning. It's the same thing as I've said many times, learning to read. When you teach a child to read, first it's just reading to them so that they become, associated with the process and they think it's wonderful reading with mom or dad. They're not learning to read yet, but they're learning, they're absorbing. And then as they get older, they start to identify letters and then words and then sentences and then concepts. And so by the time you have a, 5 or 6 year old child, you have a child that can read and understand, or 6 or 7. It's the same thing with swimming. It's really a very similar process. So, you can start as early as you want because there's so many benefits to it. Understanding, though, that your end game is to get them at about 7 or 8. That's when we really consider a child in the zone of being a water safe child. So anything up to age 8, I wouldn't even consider water safe, no matter how well they swim, Yeah. In the zone of 8 and above. And part of that, and this is where it comes in, drowning prevention versus water safety. Part of that is the maturity factor. You have to look at their mental, emotional, and physical maturity. So all of those components have to have been solidified much more. A 4-year-old child, no matter how well they swim, is only 4. So you can have a very strong swimmer at 4, but their reaction to anything that frightens them, surprises them, catches them off guard, they're still going to react like a 4-year-old child. And you cannot put that much responsibility on a 4-year-old child to assume that they're going to know what to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's where I think some of the programs that try to speed the plow, as it were, and get kids swimming younger, faster, sooner with drowning prevention skills, what happens is people equate that with water safety, but it's not. It's not water safety just to have an isolated skill that may or may not work in a moment that it occurs. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to practice it over and over, but to retain that information and be able to produce the skill at a time when that's completely unassociated with the act of it during the lessons, 6 months to a year later, it's asking a lot of a very young child. Yeah. And I would never make that, never confident to a situation knowing that child would do the thing trying to do a year ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think about that even with adults. Like I've been wanting to take just a self-defense class. And I'm like, but even if I take a self-defense class, if I have to use it in a moment, is my fight or flight going to kick in? You know, am I going to remember these moves?
Totally.
It's something that you have to continually practice. But when you're in that moment, unless it's been like ingrained in you, I don't know if it's going to help.
I mean, that's such a great example. And absolutely. So in fact, I think the practicing it over and over and over for extended period of time, for years, is where the odds are better that you'll be able to do the thing you've been trained to do. If you just do like an intensive thing,
right,
and then you do it for, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks, and then you go off with these skills, yes, a year later, if something were to happen and you hadn't practiced it, would you be able to do it? Who knows how the human mind works? But for children, here's a case in point. I've had summers where I've swam all summer with a child, like from May through September, October, and they are swimming, and they're 3 years old. I disappear for the winter. I come back, then following spring, they completely forgotten that they can swim. And I mean, these are kids who are swimming across the pool. I'm not talking about just like glide off the step and turn around and come back. I'm talking swimming, jumping in, swimming across the pool. It's amazing. They're like, I can't swim. I can't put my face and I can't swim. And they get back into it. You have to coax them back into it. But for that kind of a situation where they were fully swimming and then forget, imagine if it's an 18-month-old child or 2-year-old child who has learned to, if they fall in, they roll on their back, and you do this for 10 days, and then you absent the activity completely for 6 months.
Right.
The odds are not good, you know? So drowning prevention, I say, is an isolated sentence in the whole paragraph of water safety.
So somebody asked, what's the caution do we need to take regarding saltwater or chlorine on sensitive baby skin?
Okay, so here's, I think, a little bit of a misconception about saltwater. Saltwater pools, saline pools, still require chlorine for certain instances. You can't kill algae with a saltwater pool without adding treatments occasionally. Saltwater, chlorine is one of the most stable chemical compounds in pool use. Historically, all pools have been chlorine. I find that home chlorine pools are very mild. Low content chlorine for home pool use is very mild. We're not talking about hotels, public pools, things like this. If this is what we're talking about, a public pool, yes, the chlorine content is going to be higher. And if you have sensitive skin is different from things like eczema or psoriasis or some kind of aggravated allergy. If they just have sensitive skin, the thing to do is, as soon as they get out, you rinse them off, you use a mild soap, and then you put a lotion on, make sure you just rinse them really well, and they should be fine.
Yeah.
Most babies are fine. With eczema, there are some topicals that you can use once they get out that will help alleviate. And I can actually get you that information. One of my clients who has a very useful site, Dr. Organic Mommy, Natasha Beck, she has, one of her children has eczema. She swims regularly, or kids swim regularly. And she has some great content, some great products and content information about dealing with eczema for kids. So that's something good to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. So this person was asking, I have a few people asking about it, of dry drowning. And is this something I need to be concerned about? And what am I looking for?
Yeah. So I can ease your mind this way. It does come up on occasion. Again, I've been doing this for 30 years, and in 30 years, I have never seen a single case of dry drowning. I have a good friend who's a pediatrician, prominent pediatrician in LA, and in her entire years of practice, she never saw a dry drowning. What it would mean is your child would have swallowed so much water that the water gets into the lungs, that it just can't even be absorbed in the belly. It can't be absorbed in the stomach, and it gets into the lungs. The ways to, the clues that you would see before this would occur would be a distended stomach where it would seem really hard. The child would seem kind of like bloated, lethargic, just off, sleepy. And honestly, if your child has swallowed that much water, you would kind of know right away, and you would want to call your doctor and say, I really think we need to bring him or her in. If we're talking about that the child actually almost drowned and was underwater and needed to be resuscitated, of course, they're going to go right to the hospital anyway. So, but the amount of water that would need to be swallowed goes far beyond what children normally swallow when they're swimming around. A lot of children swallow water. Either they do it because they actually want to drink, they're thirsty and they'll drink some pool water, or they go under a few times and they'll come up, doing that horrible cough that they do where they've swallowed some water. Even that we're not talking about large quantities of water. So I do want to put your mind at ease that, again, it's such a rare occurrence. Again, if you see signs, you think your child really swallowed that much water and you were not there to see that happen, just call your doctor right away. You can take them over to urgent care, and they can address it.
So it wouldn't be something where with the dry drowning, if they swallowed a bunch of water, they wouldn't drown right away.
No. It doesn't happen right away. No, absolutely not. No, it happens over, there's a few hours where it would start to manifest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had a few people ask about that. What about safety tips for parents or families with pools at their house?
Yeah. Okay. So I definitely, I wouldn't say that I prefer a gate to a cover. I think you definitely want to have one or the other. I like gates because you can see them and you can see them closed and you can lock them and they're right in front of you and the child can't even get to the pool. But for a lot of pool backyard areas, a gate is awkward, the way the pool area is positioned. So a cover works better. You want an electrical cover. You want one that you can operate with a code or with a switch. The keypad or code switch pad comes, it has a cover with a lock. You always want to keep that locked and put the key somewhere where your child cannot access it. And the other thing I tell parents is don't let your kids open the pool for fun. Where kids say, I want to open the pool. No, because what happens? Then they think it's okay. And they will go and they will open the pool themselves. I've seen it done. Don't let your child open the pool. It's just don't let them get in that fun habit because they will. Yeah. So gates or covers are number one. I'm not a fan of the spider web style pool covers. They are really hard to put on and take off. One person can do it alone, but it's not easy. And what happens is a lot of people start leaving it half on, half off. Also, pets can get tangled in it, which is another factor, having pets. And you want to make sure that the pets don't have access to the pool. Pets can drown in the pools. Doors with alarms on them. It's a good addition. I wouldn't rely on it exclusively. Because you can have electrical failures, power outages. And then, if it stops working and you need it to be working, it's just not worth relying solely on that. I do tell people, if you have relatives that you visit who have pools where they don't gate or cover them for aesthetic reasons, you need to make some strong decisions about whether it's worth it for you to bring your child to that place. Can you make alternative arrangements? Or do you just resign yourself to knowing that one of you or your husband or your babysitter, someone comes and their job is solely to never take their eyes off the children? Because like we talked about earlier, a lot of drownings happen when the pool is not even being used.
Right.
And if you go to Arizona to visit the grandparents every holiday and the grandparents have a pool at their house and they don't gate or cover it, it's, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to think about where you bring your children. Also, if you, as kids get a little older and they start to have play dates, if it's a drop-off play date, you want to be really clear if the family that you're bringing your child to has a pool, and what their rules around it are. Is that pool gated or covered? Do they plan on doing any swimming? How is that? Is the parent in the water with the kids, or is the parent just a little more lax about it because their child's a really good swimmer? Like, what are the rules around that? And it might seem intrusive, but you want to think of it, not in a really negative way, but like having a gun in the house. Do you know what I mean? It's something that if you are not 100% certain about how this parent handles these situations, you want to get as much information as possible. And I've many times said to parents, you know what, I would rather my child not swim if I'm not going to be there. Find another activity. And whenever parents would drop their kids off at my house, I was like, are they water safe? Can they swim? I will be in the water with them, but I need to know what their skill level is like. Right. And, and I was always watching. And I will say this, I think some parents overestimate their kids' abilities. They think their children are better, stronger swimmers than they are. So it's really important to continue swim lessons until they're about 8, because you've got to keep those skills strong and fresh, especially because as kids get older, they do things like go to summer camp where they're going to be swimming. They will go to pool parties, and that might be drop-off parties, and they'll be swimming. They'll go to friends' houses and have, they'll hang out and go swimming. So you want to make sure your child has the most up-to-date skills and practice to make sure that they are continually aware of what they're doing. Yeah.
I mean, you said it might seem intrusive. I don't think so, because when it comes to the safety of your child, I feel like, I don't have kids yet. I might be a helicopter mom. I'm not sure. Just hovering over them. I know I can't be. I've talked to my husband about this. I feel like I'm going to have a really hard time letting go. But I think that when it comes to things like that, you can't be too safe, especially with the statistics that are out there.
Right. Agreed.
All right. So I had somebody asking about the best life jacket, or do you recommend wearing a life jacket or floaties? They live on a lake and had an incident the other day where their 2-year-old was face down in the lake and she couldn't turn herself over or stand up because of her life jacket.
Okay, so this is a tricky area. Here's what I'll say. For swim lessons and actual swim practice, you should never use any flotation device at all. If you are a parent with one child that you're attending to in the moment and you guys go swimming together, don't use a floaty then either, okay? I think of floaties as another pair of hands, not another pair of eyes. So it's really designed to just be added support in moments where it's chaotic. You've got a baby and a toddler and maybe even like throw another kid in the mix, a preschooler, and you're managing all of these kids, and maybe you're at a hotel or a party or a group event, or there's a lot going on. The floaty is just added assurance with another pair of hands. It's not going to keep your child safe if, God forbid, they get into a situation they can't get out of. Now, it's interesting that the 2-year-old was face down and couldn't get up in a life jacket, because life jackets are designed to keep your child vertical, not horizontal. Mm-hmm. Arm floaties, just the arm floaties by themselves, that situation can occur easily with arm floaties where they tip forward and they can't get up. So I'm interested or I'm curious to know what was going on around that, or what kind of life jacket it was. The puddle jumpers, which are the really popular ones now, they have like the arm floaty attached to the little vest that goes in the middle and snaps in the back. Those tend to be, that might have been what it was, actually. That might have been what they were wearing, because it does allow them to be horizontal in the water. So it's possible that that's what was going on. That said, a 2-year-old child in a lake, I would be curious to know how far away from the parent they were.
I don't think it was very long. They just noticed that she had kind of gone over and she couldn't get herself back up or flip over.
Yeah. So, that's why I say also that the floaty is only to allow your child to move independently with you at an arm's length distance. Mm-hmm. So if the child gets into a position like this, the parent can easily just right them, put them back into a different position. So again, it's really just a little extra help when you are completely overwhelmed with what you have to pay attention to. But it should never be seen as foolproof.
Right. Here's your floaties. Go have fun.
Yes, which I believe sometimes happens.
Yeah.
And I don't want to judge, because I know how exhausting it is to be a parent. And I know how much we look forward to any, thing that lets us say okay, you can just use all that energy up and swim around, and I can just sit here because I'm so tired.
Right.
So I totally get that. But, children who are not swimming independently, confidently under the age of 5, you really can't leave them alone for a second, even with a floaty on, and you want to avoid using them as often as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would also say keep the floaty in a place where the child can't just go and get it themselves. Not that they would go put it on and get in, but I'm saying the child will ask for it if it's available to them, because it's easy. It's easier for them too. Mm-hmm. And it also impedes the desire to want to learn to swim, because they have this to fall back on.
Yeah.
So keep it put away, and it only comes out in emergency situations.
Yeah. So I had quite a few women ask about, if you can't afford swim lessons and you want to do it yourself as parents, where's a good place to start?
That is such a great question. Definitely. Get them in when they're babies. You can take them to public pools. I will say one of the other benefits of baby swim classes is they tend to be fairly economical. YMCAs have their parent-child swim program for years. I used to teach there when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, and it's a good, solid program. And so that's a great way to have an activity with your child. It's not expensive. It's once a week. Believe it or not, you can accomplish a lot in the learning process, foundational skills. And then You can go and do like open family swim time with your baby and bring them in and just practice what you did in the baby swim class. So for young families, like with infants, start there because you can always find a good baby swim class. If you, let's say, have an older child and that hasn't started swimming yet and you want to address that, again, I will say that most YMCAs, their policy is they don't turn anyone away. If you can only afford X amount, you just fill out the forms and they will accept you for a specific program. So I would look into some of that for scholarship stuff. If you have a public pool, let's say you don't have a Y nearby, but there's a city pool. I would take your child to the pool and just play with them a lot. Bring some fun swim toys, rings, sticks, some floaty toys. Get in with them and just play. If they're really young, don't put goggles on them right away. If they're a little older, kid goggles might be a good component to helping them get their face in the water, because that's the goal. You want to get their face in the water with them looking down in the water, blowing their bubbles out, and they should be able to keep their face under the water for 3 to 5 seconds. So once they can do that, the swimming process happens fairly quickly, to be honest. It's really the putting the face in the water that can take the longest amount of time. And that just depends on your child's personality, to be honest. So I would say practice getting their face in the water and use toys, use fun games. And goggles are fine. Like some people are like, never use goggles because then it's a crutch. Well, you know what? If you have an older child who hasn't put their face in yet, goggles make it a lot more pleasant, to be honest. And then once you have a child that's a little older and confidently swimming, then you can have them go without goggles and it's fine. But don't introduce the goggles if your child's really, really little. But if you're talking about a 4-year-old child who still has not swam and put their face in, let them use some goggles because it does make it more fun for them. It really does. Yeah. So that's what I would say. And also, let me just throw this out there. For parents that really want to encourage their children to swim, definitely get in and play with them a lot. I'm telling you, you don't have to, practice specific skills. You don't have to make them swim laps. Just get in and play with them. Both my boys started swimming when they were 2. Each of them, they're 8 years apart, but they both started swimming when they were 2 because my husband and I took them in the pool almost every single day and just let them splash around, let them hang out on the steps, let them play. No agenda, just going in and hanging out with them and swimming around. And they pick it up. Like kids really do pick it up if they're given the opportunity to explore, Mm-hmm. So those are some tips just off the top of my head to help get kids going.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. I had some people asking, should you put your infant in swim classes if you don't live near pools?
Well, let's see. Yes, if you can get to it in a reasonable amount of time, it's not a hassle for you, but you don't have to do it more than once a week. And you can do it seasonally. Recognize that any exposure to the water is beneficial for them. And it also, I will say this, they always sleep so much better after they swim. It's like the magic pill. I'm telling you, naps, bedtime routine, like they are out once they get out of the pool. So if that's any helpful encouragement to get your kid in the water, that will be the one. But I do think it's beneficial regardless. Just recognizing that you do want some consistency in order for them to get acclimated to it. And that some children, like we do a lot of parent-child swim classes, and I always tell parents it takes about 4 classes for your child for it to click, where they start to like show signs of enthusiasm and get really into the bubbles, and they start to understand like holding their breath when they get their face wet. And, you know, around class number 4, things really start to click for everybody. So if you take them to the pool once or twice and they're super little and they cry and they seem uncomfortable and they don't love it, it can be really overwhelming. You know, the sounds, the sights, a big giant space of water. They're like, what is this? Especially if it's a public pool and there's lots of splashing. I just tell parents, just stay totally relaxed, hold your baby close, you know, hold them on your hip and hold them close, and don't try to force them to do things initially. Give them time to get used to it. Just hold them, bounce around in the water a little bit, bring a toy that they can play with. A lot of times they're teething, so let them have a toy that they can chew on too. And just don't go in with an agenda. And usually after a few classes, they get into it, and it's fun for them. But don't give up. That's something that parents often do, is they'll say, we tried it, but she cried the first few times, and so we stopped going. Like, no. Don't stop when they're crying. Like, bring them back, you know, bring them back again. They will get used to it.
This one lady asked, what non-pool drowning risks are there to be aware of? So a lot of people assume pool, but like the person I knew growing up, they had a pond in their backyard.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So any body of water nearby can be a drowning risk. I think it's 3 inches, you know, anything that has 3 inches of water. If it's washing your car and you have a bucket of water, that can be a drowning risk. Certainly the bathtub, and toilets and things. I mean, it's so awful, this conversation, as though everywhere you turn, there's a potential drowning risk. And I'm reluctant to try to put that much fear in someone's mind, because, you know, as you go about your daily life, if you're paying attention to your children, you are aware of the things that you see in front of you that, you know, you want to steer them away from. Bathtubs, you have to be careful with. You know, when your child is in the bathtub, you cannot leave them alone for even a second until they're, I'm going to say 6 or 7. You know, around 6 or 7. And by the way, leave them alone just means like if you are folding laundry next to them in the bedroom and the door is open and, you know, you can hear them and kind of see them in the bath. I'm not talking about going downstairs and having a cup of coffee.
Right.
But you want to make sure you are present when they are at the bath. And, you know, toilets, my kids I never did the, childproofing of toilets and things in my house. It just was never an issue for me. But some parents feel that is beneficial, to put those locks on the toilet so the kids can't, you know, lift the lids. But, you know, just generally being aware of what's around you and knowing you just really have to commit to watching your children that's the biggest factor, to be honest. Like I always say, your child's best safety device are your eyes on your child. And that, more than any other factor, is going to be their biggest ally in this process. And so, you know, if you are comfortable with that, if you get comfortable with that, then you're good, you know. That was just how we operated. My husband and I, one of us was always watching the child. You go to an amusement park, you're going to an amusement park with a child. You can never take your eyes off your child at an amusement park.
Right.
It's the same type of situation. And if you can be comfortable with that, then you really are good, you know. I will say this, at pool parties, I don't recommend pool parties for kids under the age of 6, but it does happen. People do it. And you should absolutely at least 1 lifeguard, 2, depending on how many kids there are. If your child is a really confident swimmer, great. You should still be there with your suit on, watching your child swim.
Yeah.
If your child is a beginner swimmer and wants to go, this would be a time to put them in a floaty. Okay? Because unless you're going to be in with them the entire time, which may not be the case, if no other parents are getting in and you're the only, right. You may not feel comfortable getting in, but that would be a time to put them in a floaty. And I always say to parents, lifeguards are there to watch all the children. They're there to do a job, but you always want to assume they're not watching your child.
Right.
Which sounds a little mean to say, but in a sense, it's like you still have to be your child's lifeguard.
Right.
But I definitely encourage anyone having a pool party to get a lifeguard, and you're the boss. Don't let the lifeguard just kind of sit in a chair and zone out, which I'm not saying they all do, but some do. Some just show up and they're kind of on autopilot. You want to make sure that you're clear about what the guidelines are. You're paying them. They should be walking around. They should be engaged with the kids. They should be making sure the kids are safe, not doing things that could be reckless and could cause an injury. So, make sure that you have that conversation with the lifeguard when they show up. They should show up about 15 minutes before the party starts so that you can show them where the, danger zones are, things you don't want the kids doing, where you'd like them to be sitting most of the time or standing, and, any rules that are specific to your house.
All right. I have a million more questions, but I'm only going to ask you a couple more. And a few people were asking on tips for parents who aren't strong swimmers, but to raise a child raising a child who's cautious around the water, but not afraid. This person almost drowned as a child and has a big fear. And a few people asked how do we help our kids overcome fear of water?
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. My heart really goes out to adults who are not confident swimmers or don't like to swim or have had bad experiences. It's really hard. It's really hard to be a parent with that mindset and encourage children to be otherwise. Okay. The first thing that I would say right away is you don't want to use fear-based language around swimming to your children. You don't want to talk about drowning to your children. They don't understand it on rational levels the way that parents do, and they will pick up on it. You don't want to create fear in your child. You want them to have a respect for the water. You want them to understand the rules, but you don't want to create fear. The fact of the matter is, the more relaxed a child is when they're swimming, the safer they are. Mm-hmm. If you have a child that is tense or swimming frantically, or they've been imbued with a mindset of, drowning prevention, it actually works to their disadvantage. My favorite type of child swimmer is one that has learned to swim with total joy and a relaxed attitude, because those are the children that don't have a sense of urgency about having to get somewhere. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're not okay.
Yeah.
Children should know they're okay in the water once they start swimming. So you want to try to avoid any of that as much as possible. Of course, right away, I'm going to say, please, parents, take some swim lessons. Get a good teacher that is going to make you feel a little more comfortable and make you feel a little more relaxed. Even if you're never going to be a great swimmer, even if that's just not something that you're going to tackle, you can still take some lessons and you can still become a better swimmer. You can still become a little more relaxed in the water than you are. And again, playing with your kids in the water creates a sense of joy and excitement for them.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that alone is going to improve how you feel about the experience, you know? So make sure your kids are taking lessons. Don't put your emotional baggage, I would say it that way, just because it comes to my mind, on them. That's not theirs to carry. Keep it to yourself, but just, you know, make swimming lessons a priority. Take a couple, just your own self, and then get in the pool and practice with your children. Like splash around with them, practice blowing bubbles, putting your face in, going under, playing games. Just keep it simple, but allow yourself to kind of relearn through your child. You know, learn in a better way through your child. But I commend any parent that makes that effort, because it is hard. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with adults who have had bad experiences or were terrified. And it's, you know, it's heart-wrenching. And, but in order to raise confident water-safe kids, it helps if the parent is coming from a better place, you know, emotionally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So I would say that.
I had somebody ask, please ask her to speak about the importance of not dunking children. I was a lifeguard and swim instructor for 12 years.
So good.
And she saw the impact dunking had on instilling fear and anxiety around swimming. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that honestly, I'm not good in the water. I never took swim lessons. I can swim, but I did get dunked, and it is like the worst feeling in the world.
You know, let me tell you something. I have such an issue with programs that do dunking. It makes me crazy. And first of all, it's not even effective. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even teach what you want them to learn, because nobody swims in a position where they're going under the water that way. Right. People swim with their face in the water going forward. So we do what we call the shallow glide, the shallow pass. So when we start with children, you hold them in a position where they're about to look face down. You give them a 1, 2, 3 count. You kind of do this intake of breath so they know it's coming. And you do like a quick, shallow pass. It's really just about the water going over the face. And then you pick them right up. 99.9% of the time, they don't get any water in their nose, their mouth. They come up completely fine. The occasional time, if they get water, it's because they might not have been ready for it, or they didn't go all the way under, or something like that. But it is the gentlest and easiest way to start that process. Dunking gives the illusion of drowning, because you're going under vertically, which is what it feels like when you're drowning. You go, you know, mouth, nose, head. It's also pressure on the sinuses. Mm-hmm. And for very young children, they have very tender ears and noses and everything. It's really uncomfortable. They don't know what to do with it. And it's really more about, that was just like the old way, you know, it's kind of like the old school way of just dunking them under.
No. Oh my gosh.
It doesn't do anything. It's not even necessary. Yeah. So we are anti-dunking. There's no dunking. It's completely unnecessary. Don't let anyone dunk your child. Face in the water, fine. As a shallow glide, fine. That's great. But going straight down under the water does nothing for your child.
Yeah.
So, oops, did I lose you? There you are.
And for me, it wasn't even swim lessons. It was my big brother, you know, so it's like teaching kids, not to do that to other kids, or even, I feel like guys somehow think it's funny to dunk their child. And to me, every single time that happened, I thought that I was drowning, and I had I would freak out. I'd be like, I'm dying. I'm going to die.
Right. Yes, totally. Yes, there is something in that guy mentality of, this is how that's how it's done.
Lame.
You know? It's not. Definitely
Guys are dumb.
Really unnecessary, and can traumatize them for months.
Oh,
really.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be the thing that their child can be on the path to like getting into it, and one good dunk under can freak them out for months.
Yeah.
So no dunking. The other thing I do want to say really quickly, it hasn't been asked, but it's really, really important, and it relates to adults who don't like to swim, is make sure the program that you are using teaches your child regulated breathing. Okay. And this is something that a lot of the intensive swim programs don't address at all, because this is a time heavy process. But you want to make sure that when your children learn to swim, that they are breathing out, they're exhaling while they're swimming in the water. When their faces are in, they are breathing out. They're blowing their bubbles and breathing out. And then they either pick their head up or they roll onto their back and they breathe in and they rest. You don't want your child to learn to swim holding their breath, because number one, it's ineffective. It's tiring. It keeps them in panic mode. Again, they can't relax because they're swimming with urgency. The whole mindset is, I have to get to the side so I can breathe. That's not how you create a water-safe child. A water-safe child can swim and breathe while they're swimming. Plus, as they get bigger and older and stronger, it's a difficult habit to break themselves of. And most adults who know how to swim but don't enjoy it, don't like it, it's because they didn't learn how to breathe. Mm-hmm. So they hold their breath, they're awkward with the breathing, and it's a huge deterrent in swimming.
Yeah.
So let me just throw this out there, and it's a total plug, but it actually has merit. There's a book I wrote called See Me Bubble. It's for little kids. It's for like infants up to, let's say, age 2.5. And it's on Amazon. And the book itself is a whimsical, cute book for kids about breathing, bubbling, because bubbles are breathing. But in the back, there's a whole list of parent tips and water safety tips. It's like total water safety information that is right off my website on water safety, and parent tips about teaching your child to breathe, how you blow bubbles, why it's important. So it's a total resource for parents, in addition to being a sweet book for kids.
Yeah. So, I think I was going to ask, this lady said how to pick a good swim lesson program. So it sounded like you kind of touched on that, like a program that teaches your kid regulated breathing.
Yeah. You want to make sure that they learn how to breathe. And when children are babies, up until about age 2, the two components are separate. They learn how to hold their breath and put their face in, and then they learn to bubble with just their mouth. Once they're about 2, they're able to put the two together, and 2.5, and then they can actually put their face in and blow bubbles at the same time. Initially, they're separate, but then you can put them together. Once they can do that, it's just repetition until they learn. And you do want kids to learn the rolling method for water safety. Yeah. You want them to learn to swim and then roll on their back and rest and kick and swim on their back for a few seconds and then roll back over and keep swimming. Even if they learn to pick their head up, they should still learn the rolling method because it's a better safety technique.
Yeah. I did have a lot of people ask about life jackets. I know you said kind of as an emergency, an extra set of hands, not eyes. But do you have one that you do recommend? Well, if we're talking about pool use, the puddle jumper is fine. Mm-hmm. It's fine. I wouldn't use arm floaties on their own. So the puddle jumper is totally adequate for pool use. We're talking about something like lakes or oceans or things like that. I'd be more inclined to go with something a little more industrial. But I don't have a recommendation for that one because, again, I'm totally focused on pool safety and all of that. Yeah. But what I would probably do is see what the LA County or whatever area you live in, the fire department or county lifeguards would recommend for ocean or lake use. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good advice. And then just one more, how do you teach the fearless kids who are just jumping in the water how to not? You know what? Those kids are a wonderful mixed blessing because they are
fearless and they're into it, but they can stop your heart. So here's what you need to do. Get them swimming as much as possible. Get them in, encourage that fearlessness, and keep them swimming. In terms of safety, you want to be so clear before you even get to the water area. When mommy says, you wait, you need to sit and wait until I say go. You cannot go in until there's an adult in the water already. You need to listen to me or your teacher or whoever. If you're not listening, I take you right out and we leave. Mm-hmm. And be very clear what your rules are at the pool before you even get there. And you might need to ante up a couple times. And I know, this can be hard for parents. Like their kids are totally enjoying themselves. They are so into it. But if they're not being safe, you have to take control of the situation. And if it means that on one occasion, you haul them out and take them home because they weren't listening to the rules, you do it once or twice, they will get the message quickly. Yeah. So don't be wishy-washy about these particular things. Yeah. Same is true. I've seen this a lot of times where the kid is swimming, the parent is standing there saying, okay, it's time to come out now. I'm going to count to 3. You need to get out of the pool. We've got to go. I've got to get your sister. I've got to do this. We have lots to do. And the kid's like, hee, and swims around underwater and won't get out. The best course of action, even if you are fully dressed, because it will shock the system, is you get in, you say, I'm counting 3. If you are not out, I am coming in to get you, and then there'll be consequences. You go down those steps and you get them out and you say, now you have lost a privilege, ... right? You only have to do it once or twice, but it will have the impact, follow through, and that will help. Mm-hmm. Okay. But don't squash the spirit. If they're really into swimming, have them swim as much as possible, because you have a kid that will probably be safer sooner. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to water safety, you have to follow through on setting those rules and then following through, because their life could depend on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not the time to count to 3 10 times. Mm-hmm. It's the time to count to 3 1 time. But you know what? If they're excited about it, God bless. Just know that you really, you're going to have heart attacks ongoing for, those couple of years until you get through that stage. But, it's worth it, because you'll probably have a really good swimmer on your hands.
Yeah. 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 So thank you so much for coming on. You said that you have a website as well. Where can people find that?
Yeah. So it's kidswim.org, O-R-G. And if they are not in the local LA area, we have, just in terms of information, we actually have a whole page on our website that's dedicated to water safety and water safety information. It's right there on the site for you. And a lot of articles about swimming and water safety and tips, what to do on vacation, what to do if your child regresses, there's just a myriad of topics to cover. And for older children, by the way, there's a whole article on what to do with teenagers. Mm-hmm. So definitely as a resource, it's great. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And then also don't forget to check out her book, See Me Bubble, by Lisa Cook. And I will have all of that information when the episode comes out for people to easily have available. But thank you so much for taking the time and answering the questions and just educating us on the importance of water safety.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks to all your listeners who submitted questions. That's the best way to get the information out, is answering what people are concerned about,
Yes. So. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
I am so excited that she came on. I feel like I learned a lot, which I usually learn a lot, but it is an important issue. It is warm outside. People are starting to swim. And I've kind of always had a fear of water. I never took swim lessons. I don't like going in too much. So I feel like maybe I should take some adult lessons, just to kind of get my fears around water out of the way. But it is an important topic. It is something that is important to instill in our children, the importance of water safety. There's so many preventable situations that end up happening. So I'm so grateful for Lisa for coming on and teaching us and sharing with us her expertise. I will have all the information up, like I said, for you guys to be able to find out more about her. And don't forget to join our Miraculous Mamas Facebook group. I want to say thank you to all the women in there who asked these amazing questions. That's where I draw some information from for this podcast to see what you guys want to hear and try to bring that for you. So don't forget to join that group. These women are absolutely amazing on Facebook, and follow the Miraculous Mamas Instagram, where I always post information about the guests that are coming on. And then also my website, elizabethjoy.co, where I have more doula information on there, some products, services, more information about me and what I'm doing with my doula stuff. And there's different parental blogs and tips for pregnancy and new mamas on there. Thank you guys so much for listening. I can't wait for you to hear what we have coming out next week. And I hope that you have a wonderful day and that you are enjoying your summer safely. See you next week.
Podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.